Hello, Robert Kramer here with Analysts Gone Wild. We are on the brink of Halloween and a big night coming tomorrow night with the Toronto Blue Jays, and we're here for some great stories. I'm with more insights and strategy. I cover data, ERP, and SCM. Here to weigh in on some of my experience and insights and vision on the World Series. What else do we have today? We got a couple Toronto people on the phone. One has a hat on. Hopefully he's not a fair weather fan, but he says he likes them a lot, but we'll see what he has to say. And the other one, I don't think is a fair weather fan, and Michael is probably not a fan. So, Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself and your fan scope.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Great to be here. To help with my fan cred, I've got my 1992 World Series commemorative baseball here, been on my desk for the past 34 years, since I was 9 years old, I guess. So, being a Blue Jays fan my whole life, really.
Did they win that year?
Winning back-to-back when I was a kid that was just sort of getting into sports. Interest really helped a lot with that. But, I credit the Blue Jays. They sort of pulled me into caring about data, I think, Robert, because every day when the Toronto Star was delivered to our front door, I'd pick up that newspaper, rip to the sports section, look at the very back so I could see who was leading the Blue Jays in home runs, who had the best batting average, what's going on with the other teams. I was just scouring that box score. So, when you think about it, it taught me that data can explain the world and is relevant to the things that you're interested in. So, thank you, Blue Jays, for making me care about math.
I'm going to come back to that data in just a second after we introduce the other two gents. Michael, a little bit about yourself. What's going on?
Sure. Well, I know nothing about baseball, so you got to leave me out of that discussion. But so Michael Fawcett, Aaron Research. We started the firm about 4 years ago, mostly focused around the intersection of customer experience and agentic AI, generative AI in general.
Great. And Sam.
Yeah, I mean, Michael may not know about baseball, but he can talk all day about how they should be upgrading their technology and how they should be
absolutely
that, right?
Absolutely. The fan experience, I can talk about that.
Yeah,
is that what the show is about? Okay.
Yeah, and that is the only reason why Blue Jays are winning today. It's because of AI.
Well, it has something
it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Interesting story. I interviewed one of Major League Baseball's head of operations earlier this year at Google Next, and he really talked a little bit about it's the next generation of Moneyball, because Moneyball, from the person at the Oakland Athletics previously, the name, that's where they were, it was all manual. So they now take all the data, it's stored in the Google Cloud, and it's really kind of nice because they give all the data to all the teams. So the teams get the same amount of data, and then they can do it whatever they want. But I was reading up on the Toronto Blue Jays. They've really taken it to the next level with some visualizations that they're able to do, say which players that they should be drafting or trading, or who should go on at this time or that time. Some of the people, like we talked about, Springer, who should be taken out at the sixth inning because he's old. I'm joking. But it's plays a significant role, Brian, like you were talking about. Like, before it was all manual. So, in the National League, which was even more interesting, they had the pitcher bat. So it was even more analytical from the mind of when to bring the pitchers in and out, and from the batting position and how you did all that. Today, I think it's more on the physical conditioning of the players and the conditions of the field and the game and the weather, and the fans play a different role in what the analytics are telling. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, every competitive sports team, whether you're an MLB, NBA, NHL, they have a data and analytics department now, and it's their competitive differentiator in some cases, because you're getting more than ever from the leagues. I mean, literally, they've got 3D 4K cameras that are capturing every motion, every action that's happening on the playing field or on the court or on the ice, wherever you're playing. And they're translating that into exactly the data feeds that you can use, but how you apply that and what insights you glean from it, that's where you can make the difference with your in-house analytics team. So it's interesting if you ever get the opportunity to talk to some of these back office people that are applying these data insights, how they go about that, what they look, how it factors into their decision making, and how it even factors into coaching some of these teams.
Yeah, I actually think it's it's a big industry now for technology to be used, but also how that technology could be used in manufacturing. It's a very, or healthcare or finance, it's a great example of that because it's easier to understand. A lot of people think, oh, it's kind of like a joke, it's sports, but it's not a joke. It gives the fans a better experience. It gives the teams more information, and it gives all about the sponsorship, the whoever's doing that, more publicity. So instead of just putting a name on the wall, this is more about the technology being used and how it really streamlines through all the different things. Plus, the broadcasters are getting way more information. I think you mentioned that. And then a lot of this stuff is streaming to the cloud instead of having these big trucks out front. So it's a big sustainability avenue as well. Okay. Any before we get to our ERP conversation coming up here, any close out of that discussion? Who's going to win tomorrow, Sam?
Yeah, I mean,
AI?
it's hard to predict right now. I mean, they have one of the best pitchers, to be completely honest. So I think it's gonna go to the game 7. But obviously, as a Blue Jays fan, what I really want is to have them win the 6th one, so that we don't have to see 7th. But I don't think that's gonna happen. I think it's gonna go to the 7th.
AI says game 7.
Game
But,
7, yep.
Is what AI says. What do you
Yeah.
think, Brian? Close it out.
Yamamoto is going to be tough. He shut us down last time,
Yeah.
but we'll also have our ace out there, so it should be a low-scoring game. Hopefully, the Jays find a way to squeak it out. It's one thing they've been able to do all season is
Yeah.
put the bat on the ball. So why not tomorrow?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll jump into this first story. Daedong, I'm not sure how you say it correctly, but they lost an ERP dispute. Now, this is a pretty large company. It's a tractor company out of Korea, and they filed an $11 billion lawsuit over ERP. It seems like this is against SAP and Oracle, but it doesn't really say. And they were just major problems throughout. This comes back to a lot of what we talked about with change management and transparency. And I think a lot of times these companies, the inflection point comes when they're not able to go quickly on this, because when they drag out over time, it causes a lot of problems. But who knows what the issues were with this? But was this something, Sam, that you think it's the vendor, the customer, both? What's your insight on this? And also Michael and Brian.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, this is a very interesting story, and I was waiting for this one for some time now, especially, and you guys were not there, I guess, in the last session, and we covered a lot of different ERP failures. And when we think of ERP failures, we are always talking about vendors don't do this, vendors don't do that. That's how ERP community is structured. I mean, that's the most standard way of getting most likes on social media.
I don't think we say that necessarily, but
I mean, you are not allowed to say that because vendors are your customers, I guess, right?
Well, I think the customer owns a huge amount of the responsibility for a lot of reasons you're about to say. But go ahead.
Yeah. So, but I mean, overall, if you look at the number of hits that people are getting on social media, if you want to get that, then just trash the vendors. And this story is really interesting personally for me. The reason for that is the reasons are not always going to be vendors or anybody who is sort of playing in the industry. It's also going to be customers are one of the biggest problems. And here, this is the internal conflict, which actually led to lawsuit. Can you believe this? Okay, so this is why this story is really interesting. And this is something nobody pays attention on, that your internal problems are going to be the major contributor. I mean, obviously, if you don't structure your engagement properly, if you don't manage your vendors properly, you are going to have problems. But you are the biggest problem. Simple as that. So that's why, that's my insight on, or my take on this particular story. I really do like this one.
Well, your processes are going to change because the systems are making you change your processes. So they're going to point out your weak links
No, but I mean,
indirectly.
this is also an example of misreporting where you are not painting the real picture because you are afraid to paint that because you are going to lose your job. So this is, the reason why they are able to file this lawsuit is because, this was sort of the subsidiary relationship, right? So you have different legal structure, but what if you then have that legal structure? So you are never going to see this in the news, right? You are probably going to get some people fired. But so that never comes out in the news. But this is the biggest problem, to be completely honest, because people don't want to paint the clear picture. If you had painted clear picture, maybe executives can take action. But there is very rarely a real picture, even from vendors, customers. Nobody knows what is happening inside ERP implementation, just like a lot of different companies on Wall Street. Nobody knows.
What do you think, Brian and Michael?
I'm going to say stay big picture for this one and use it as a cautionary tale where you just need to be thinking about vendor risk as you enter into new relationships with your vendors these days, as you review your contracts. And that should be something that you're doing on an ongoing basis, not only when you're considering vendor renewal, not only when you're considering contract renegotiation, because you have to think about every angle here and look at this situation, no matter who's responsible or what's happening underlying this case. At the end of the day, this company put in place an ERP solution that they didn't have control over, right? And they lost access to it because their supplier decided they were in a dispute worthy of cutting them off from access. So you absolutely cannot put yourself at that sort of risk where you can access a critical business system. You need to be able to do business. You need to be able to use your ERP. I mean, what sort of business continuity management process are you running? If this is the situation that you can't even use your ERP, it's like we're just talking about Moneyball, where the Oakland Athletics were tracking everything on paper compared to these days everything being on Google Cloud. I guess they're going back to paper here at this company because they can't operate digitally anymore.
Well, it's gone that far down the road. I mean, to get there's been an immense problem. So it doesn't happen overnight to say you're getting cut off. But Michael, what do you think?
Well, I sort of had flashbacks to the mid to late 90s. I mean, these were like happened all the time back then, right? I think the classic example was Borden Foods. They literally kicked their vendor off site after 3 years and locked their front gates and wouldn't let the consultants back on site because they were so angry over the implementation. But I mean, I think you guys are right. Is the client ready? And a lot of the fault always falls back to where did you make the right level of change management to actually absorb whatever you've changed in your systems? I think this also sort of talks about the problem too, that applications up until recently were siloed, and they tried to integrate things, but as always difficult. And if you always have these breaks in data flow and process, and you're kind of working across these sometimes manually, it's a huge issue for the companies that are trying to absorb the technology. And of course I get to say, but with AI, we have a new capability to tie the front end together across a lot of these systems and start to think about the workflow more and less about the applications itself. So,
well, don't you think everyone that a lot of times everybody wants their past history. They want the customizations. They want to keep their processes. They want everything that they had before, but they want a new system. But they're not really owning that difficulty to get there or to change their processes. A lot of what I've seen is they want their history, and it's probably easier to do nowadays. But you're bringing over some problems with that, and it's not as simple as everybody thinks.
Well, I mean, it is easier now than it was, before, I guess. But it is an interesting problem when you think about the way this all goes together, and the change, and the fact that a lot of the systems were a very rigid process. So, you force the customer to adapt to systems the processes that they didn't already have, and they maybe didn't want, like maybe their process was their part of their competitive advantage. So rigid systems are problematic. I was thinking about, in a former life, I used to run some of these large ERP implementations, and I was doing one at a large government agency in the 90s. And I still remember that I was talking to this guy about the process, and I got into this huge argument because he insisted that the field on the screen had to be blue, because the field in his old system was blue, and he couldn't use the system if it wasn't that way.
They have to be blue, Michael. Come on. It's blue days.
Obviously, clearly it needed to be blue. And then, of course, he showed me his 3 backup ledgers that he used for the current system that he filled out every time he made a transaction in the actual system. So,
I mean, Sam, are you better off going greenfield and just get these things up and running, and then work with your former data and your I guess if it's not a competitive edge for a process, you stick with the new processes, or what do you advise?
Yeah, so I guess let me bring an analogy here. So let's say you are living in a house that's broken. You just don't know that it's broken. Okay. Now, obviously, you are going to complain a lot that you want improvement, but you are not ready for those improvements. Now, vendors are going to come and they are going to show you how houses are supposed to be constructed. Okay. Now they are going to say, no. I don't like that. Okay. I want this, what I have, but at the same time, I want everything that they have in those new houses. That's where the real conflict is. Okay. So you don't get both. You need to learn how to live in a structured house the way houses are supposed to be constructed. You designed your own house the way you wanted, the way you liked it, but that's not how construction or real estate is supposed to work. So that's where the biggest disconnect is with these ERP implementation. People, when they say, they have unique processes, what they really mean is they have broken house and they really love it.
Okay, that was a good one. Any comments, guys? I think this is really a kind of apropos to what's going on in the industry, and how I think that the customers really need to understand a little bit what their responsibility is in going forward. And I do think that the whole industry is drastically changing, and we've talked about that.
Yes.
Same, that it's going to more of an event-driven system, and I'm not sure that's going to help this situation, but it will position them to have a better ROI and take advantage of the agentic world a little bit better.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I've said this before on here that I think that we're going through a shift where the applications move behind the scenes and the workflow is really the front, and the agents and the systems, the collaborative systems like Slack and Teams, all those things become the way that we interact with those systems. And it's much less about each of those individual applications, because the whole process becomes the key versus each little broken up process across all those applications.
I totally agree with that, Michael. And another factor that we need to consider is just underlying satisfaction with the sort of business model that we've enjoyed with software as a service for the past 15 years, I guess, basically. But when you think about it, at the end of the day, we're paying for the privilege of using software, and it's up to the company to provide the employees to know how to run the process, to know how the context lines up with what you're doing with the software. And vendors, they try and help us along the way, right? The power of SaaS and what a lot of these vendors are able to provide is their competitive differentiators, baking in that best-in-class process into the software. But then what do? We try to customize it still to the way we did it before, right? We want the blue screen that we have always saw, because that's what we're used to. So it doesn't always work out. And there's, in this AI world that we're shifting towards, we're going to be seeing organizations that are paying for outcomes, not software that they have to manually use.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that I would urge these companies, all companies, as we go into 2026, is to look at their data management strategies, because I think Most of them don't have their data in order, or it's halfway in order and they think it's in order. And if it's not, all the things that we always talk about with AI and agentic AI and automation will not be able to take full advantage of it if your data is not in at the level it needs to be. And I think that a lot of companies are kidding themselves and think they have a handle on it, and I don't think they do.
Yeah. Well, Robert, the other thing I think too is we think of this as one and done a lot of times, right? We think fix your data and then have AI. Well, that's not the way it works. You've got data that, comes in all the time, and particularly around real-time data that's going to drive a lot of these actions in some of the systems with agents that you're going to see. So, I think you have to think of this as an ongoing automation problem. How do I ensure my data quality is maintained correctly as I use the system, across its life cycle?
Yep.
That's different. Yeah.
All right, Sam, any closing discussions, or we go to the next one?
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Okay, so Mendix is a Siemens business. I'm sure a lot of people have probably heard of Siemens, pretty significant company over in Europe. They announced a platform release with a heavy focus on AI. And, they're already in the automation business with their industrial automation strategy and connecting. They're kind of big into connecting factories and factory data and systems with frontline workflows and things of that nature. So now they launched a new release that deals with agentic AI demand. And I would think that this is good for process management and helping all of these different workflows, but also able to actually generate through their agent builder different types of agents. So plus minus, I know they have some pretty good competition with a lot of companies that we talk about, but I used to work for a company overseas, and they were very much talked about more in Europe than the United States. But I want to get your flavor.
Definitely. I think the key in here is this orchestration capability, right? The more you implement agents across your business, the harder it is to manage those agents across your business, unless you've got a platform that helps you with that AI orchestration, or maybe platforms, because maybe you're using more than one vendor. And in these kinds of automation situations, particularly if you move down in the supply chain, I mean, you've got not just your agents to orchestrate, but you have to orchestrate interactions with agents that aren't even in your system or your organization. So it's a complex problem. The more agents you have, the more complex the problem. I mean, I think you're going to see agent ops or AI ops as a huge topic over the next couple of years, because we need to be able to orchestrate and manage all these different agents that are popping up across your business and your partners.
Well said.
There's a different UI that's also coming in here, and this is something that I've been interested in tracking. Most of these sort of low-code AI agent driven solutions that allow the citizen developer to get involved in automating their processes, it's natural language based, right? It's the chat GPT prompt, but it's now going to put together a little automation or piece of software that helps you get through your day and takes some of the drudgery out of it, takes some of the toil out of it. That's the concept. But here we're seeing a visual builder, right? And that's a different approach. And it sort of reminds me of other consumer automation platforms that we have seen in the pre-AI era that have been quite popular. And what's the right model? And are there different models for different situations to help users put these agents together? I'm not sure, but it's interesting that we're seeing different approaches.
Yeah, so this is very interesting, and I don't know, I don't have as much background on Mendix. I don't know if you guys have more background on them. Siemens, when I look at them, I find that company a little bit confused. The reason for that is because sometimes it's hard to understand what they really do, and a lot of machine builders, and that's how I would sort of qualify them as from the business model perspective. Their business model is very similar to Rockwell automation, to some extent GE as well, right? I mean, now everybody wanted to get into software business because that's where they felt money was, and that's why, I mean, Siemens had always a consulting division, just like Panasonic and I don't know how many different companies. They all got into this whole digital business. So now, what is Mendix, right? So is it some sort of software platform that they bought and they are selling to increase their machine selling? Obviously they have a medical device division, as far as my understanding goes, and that's a big business for them, right? So is Mendix for internal development or external? Are you selling this to customer? Are you trying to be an AI company? I have no clue what's going on here. Okay, so that's my take on the story. Maybe you guys have more background on Mendix, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, like any of the larger industrial focused companies like Siemens or GE or others, they got in the software business. I mean, Siemens has a PLM product that's very well thought of. This automation platform. So they are a software company as well as the industrial machinery, manufacturing, automation, all these other businesses. So, massive company, lots of different divisions do lots of different things. But I mean, this seems like a logical play if you're on this, you're already on the factory floor with automation tools and you're starting to bring in Agentic. You need that orchestration platform and a way to build these and democratize to some extent the way you're deploying these agents. So I don't know. I don't track Siemens as close as I used to when I was following the PLM world, but they are definitely well thought of in the companies where they they do business.
Yeah, and that's the way I read it too, is mostly an internal development platform play, trying to get more productivity out of your frontline users that aren't trained developers, right? By giving them these sort of agentic AI builders. So, and when you have Siemens that provides the factory floor automation, it has devices that have embedded technology, right? So it's bridging that gap between the IT and the OT solutions. And maybe Mendix fits into that space, right? Where you're trying to connect your enterprise data to even some of the physical automation that's happening in your environment. So it's possible that they're trying to fill in that gap, but there's a lot more context that you need here to really understand who's going to use this and where it provides the value.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Well, let's go to the next. Well, we got one question. I think you want to hit on that real quick.
Yeah, Robert. So I'll read this one. So Andy, thank you so much for joining. And Andy saying it's all about outcomes. Without a business outcome, why invest dollars? Outcomes are finally becoming the norm. Outcomes are also very subjective. So I don't know, what anybody can do about them. You can talk about them in the marketing material, but for the most part, it's very, very, very hard to really define outcome and get sort of outcome from whatever investment that you are doing. That's the most difficult part always.
It is hard, but it also is the key to a lot of this investment that you're going to see going forward, right? I mean, you have to focus on what it is you're trying to accomplish, not the technology itself. And that's been a problem for years. We want to buy cool technology and implement it, and then somebody goes, yeah, but what's it supposed to do?
Yeah.
It actually is supposed to do something, or why would you do that? So I agree. I think it's an important concept and a shift going forward that we start to think about what is it we're getting out of these things and how do we get what it is we expect.
Okay, if you don't have any other comments, I'll take that off and go to the next story.
This one is kind of similar to one we just talked about with OutSystems. They are I believe, a competitor to Mendix, right? And they released kind of what you're talking about a little bit, Michael, with their agent workbench, with their agent orchestration, guardrails, governance, they kind of help out, with all that. Because I think that is one of the biggest things, I think, with all this agentic AI is how do we govern them? How do we understand what each agent does? And how do we facilitate that whole orchestration component? You can design them and build them and do this and do that, but who's governing them and running all that behind the scenes orchestration? So what do we all think about this, and how do they compare to Mendix?
So I may not have as much problem with this one, to be completely honest, Robert. And the reason for that is because OutSystems right now, I mean, they are pure play low-code development platform. That's my understanding, at least from their business model perspective.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
may have problem with them once they get acquired by McDonald's, and McDonald's, may believe that your burger should have AI from today onwards, and we are a technology company. You know,
I
that's
like
where I
McDonald's.
Sure.
you would like some AI there.
Why not?
Let's
Hold
eat
the
AI.
pickles.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, look, this is not as bad. I know that everybody's sort of racing towards this particular business model because the legacy development platforms are probably not going to be as relevant. So obviously there is a little business opportunity here that everybody's trying to exploit. But overall, I guess in the future, where local development platforms are going to be, I don't know if they all are going to become CRM systems, the way ServiceNow has become now. There is a possibility always. Creation is the same example as well. So that would be my take on this. But overall, I'm excited.
Yeah. I
Another
mean, you said orchestration, and I think that's the key here again, right? Proliferation of lots of agents. How do I manage them? How do I take care of this? And one of the other things I think conceptually, you've got to start to think about, governance and ethics by design, right? We need those designed into the system as we go forward because it's such a critical piece. And if you're deploying something in your business that can do stuff that you don't necessarily control directly, you better make sure you have the right sort of guardrails and governance in place. I mean, even to the fact that I thought this was interesting from Dreamforce, Salesforce announced a scripting language so that in your agents, which you want to make autonomous in certain situations, you can also put things in there that aren't autonomous. You can put guardrails, hard guardrails in there that say, for this part of the process, I always want you to do this thing, right? And that's an evolution of the idea of autonomy. It's autonomous in certain areas and situations, but there's variability in what that autonomy looks like because there's certain things that you don't want. Even you don't want your humans making a decision that's outside of a certain parameter, right? The same's true with the agent.
There is kind of an issue with all this where it's going beyond the orchestration is the strategic component. Who says the workforce that you have in place is capable of being that strategic arm of that you're asking them to do? So I think this is a little bit more complex than just the orchestration. Now you're going to ask you're going to reskill or retool or reposition your workforce, and who says that they're capable of those strategic decisions? I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying, have you thought about it?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a big consideration when you start to think about a hybrid workforce. Even just in the simple example of developers, right? What happens with a developer's role when almost all of them are using some sort of an AI tool to build the code? And I think that's up a level, right? It's how do you make the conceptual determination of what you want the system to do, how you want the system to do, what you want those outcomes to be. And that's going to be a different role than just, writing code in a closet.
Right.
Yeah, ultimately, what we're talking about is opening up that software development lifecycle to cross-functional users, is the language used in this particular press release. You know what that means? It's people that don't know how to code, and here we are opening up the developer lifecycle to them. So this is why we're talking about guardrails and governance, right? And on the baseball field, the governance is provided by the manager, but how it's interpreted is different depending on the context, right? So the manager says, okay, we want to contain this offense. We'll play it safe. Maybe we'll allow in a couple of runs, get the out. So the outfielders are going to shade him differently. The infield comes in. Things are going to adjust to accommodate that. But in the enterprise, when your leadership is providing that governance and the goals that everybody is to follow, how are your employees interpreting it? How are the AI agents going in to interpret that? And how do you make sure that it stays aligned with what you really want the outcome to be?
Yeah.
All right. Should we hit the next one, Sam?
Yeah, let's do this.
This one is I like this one a lot for a variety of reasons, and the connected worker solution from Plex, they're expanding into that. But I think that this whole connected worker solution by Plex, obviously it has similar to QAD, but there's an enormous investment in manufacturing going on, and has been going on, and will be going on. And I think that this part, to get it for companies to buy this and to have this the connected worker solution, is going to be more valuable than you think, because of the fact that you're going to need the skill set and the automation in manufacturing with all this reinvestment. So just another angle that I see is very important. But what do you all think?
Well, I think it's a good example of what we were just talking about, Robert, when you talk about the fact that people are going to be some of the issues in what they do and how they do it. I mean, this is a good way to think about how you take that and infuse new skills, new responsibilities across the workforce. So I don't know much about Plex in general, but just when I read through this, I was like, yeah, that seems like that makes a lot of sense in a world where jobs are going to be changing as we learn more about how this works in a hybrid workforce environment.
Yeah, so Robert, this is another example that I was talking about from the Siemens perspective, and Plex was one of the best ERP systems. Everybody sort of loved it. Okay, and then they get acquired by Rockwell, which is probably carrying 200,000 SKUs. They are primarily a control systems company, and this becomes one of their SKUs. And after 2 years of acquisition, people are still wondering, are you still part of our company? So that's been the story for Plex, to be completely honest. Okay, so I don't think I have tracked any stories from them for last 2 years, which was a little concerning, because when you are an ERP business, what I want to see is every quarter you are doing something. Even if you are doing just the rebranding AI native, capabilities and not producing anything, I'm completely okay with that. But have some press releases, guys. That's how software business is supposed to work. So in this case, they did not release anything, right? In this case, obviously, the only reason why they wanted to acquire is because they want to sell more control systems and machines, right? And that's why they acquired Optex, Plex, and they are talking about S to cloud interoperability or whatever. So they have a lot of different solutions in their portfolio, and their strategy is going to be, how can I create more barriers for my machines so nobody buys machines from Siemens? So that's the whole story here, to be completely honest. Okay, and I mean, they are sort of catching up in some capabilities with QAD. A lot of companies are trying to do that, but I don't know how aligned that is from the business model perspective.
Well, what do you think about the manufacturing investments that's going on? Almost like a repatriation, and needed the skill set is an older skill set that's in manufacturing. So you have to convince the younger generation to want to be in manufacturing. I think it's critical to have automation at this level to bring that gap in the workforce that we're going to have massively in manufacturing if things like this aren't done. But just another angle that I'm looking at.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, that's a very interesting argument, and the whole manufacturing community talks about it. But what they don't pay attention to is the paycheck that they are giving to these workers. And generally, the average salary is going to be $20 an hour. So how in the world these younger workers are going to be excited about this job, which is going to pay them $20 an hour, and they cannot even afford it? So I don't know. I mean, if this is a worker problem, I think this is the productivity problem. Okay. And obviously, you don't want productivity, because everybody feels when you are going to automate anything, then what is going to happen? Jobs are being replaced, but at the same time, you are not able to produce enough from the human to be able to pay them $60 an hour or $80 an hour. So their salaries are going to be comparable to, software people or whoever, those are. So that's where the major problem is in terms of wage gap. And now, how do you fill that up? Again, it has to be productivity.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot that goes into making that end price for a product. And so that has to be reassessed as well. So, but there's a gap in workforce, and these tools, I think, are part of the equation. But what you said is another issue is the paycheck. Yeah. Michael, what do you and Brian think?
I mean, again, I think having a system in place that helps you ensure that your workers have the right sort of just-in-time training when they need it is a good thing. So, it looked to me like a positive from a customer perspective anyway. That and I think you're right. The more we bring this manufacturing back, the and we have many less people that know how to do this anymore, the more we're going to need some way to make sure that people perform in a predictable way in this what is a new environment to them. I don't know about the $20 part, but
Yeah, I know from working with clients in the manufacturing sector, I know that a big pain point is getting the workers on the floor to interact with the ERP system. And it's always a source of poor data quality, not having that single source of the truth. And it's because it requires this manual process of data entry that's not connected to what is really happening in the physical process on the floor, right? So anything that we can do to help with that. And like in reading this solution, I'm honestly not sure all the pieces are really there yet. It's it seems to have a lot of focus on like, hey, we have images now that people can look at, which is I'm almost wondering like how is that not there before? But um, one step closer
good
to
question.
solving these pain points, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's dive into what we have next. ServiceNow.
Service now.
I'm not sure if this is hype or something it's interesting, but I mean, I don't think this is anything new. I know that everybody knows who ServiceNow is today. I mean, I don't think they're really what they're. I guess this is saying they're going from a more of a ticketing system to more of more of an AI experience. But I think they've already graduated from things of that nature. But Michael, what do you think?
I mean, this is a me too for the Dreamforce announcements. If you want to, say call it what I think it is, right? I mean, they're chasing Salesforce in the CRM space. Part of this goes back to what we've talked about several times here. You need a central hub for governing, monitoring, managing any AI asset, including your own and your partners. Orchestration is going to be key. So AI Control Tower is their first offering in this space. I mean, I'm sure it's a version 1, so it's going to have to evolve. But I mean, we've only been talking about Agentic for less than a year, really. So everybody's evolving and it's happening quickly.
Yeah.
So to me, that's what it seemed like is, I was at Dreamforce. I know what the announcements were. I read this and I went, oh yeah, okay, that would have made sense to follow Dreamforce with this if I was them.
Yeah, I think this is a compelling way for ServiceNow to work its way out of the IT department and those back-end processes and into
Yeah.
of cross-functional areas, right? What other business processes can it automate for you? And I've been working with clients as well that are really interested in expanding their ServiceNow automation. The CIO is a good entry point for this because they're working with this. They've seen the success of this platform in pushing
Like you
things
said.
more towards self-service, pursuing those shift left strategies. And now they're thinking, what else can I do? Where can we take this across the enterprise? And AI is going to be key to that, right? And having this AI front end, like this is what we've been talking about, this conversational interface for your employees to work with, right? You don't very similar to putting the customer at the center of your experience when we talked about digital transformation. For AI transformation, maybe the employees at the center of the experience in terms of being the most productive possible. And you don't want them thinking about, what system do I have to go into that again? Is this system integrated with that system, or do I have to now go open this up and do that, or do I have to hand it off to this playwright? All those little points of friction in a process where you risk losing the task from being completed. AI can step in and make sure that it gets done. So there's potential here, right? Again, it's just an announcement in terms of having some concepts of interaction and governance, and there's a lot behind the scenes that has to be tested and proven, but it's a good start, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys overall. I think this is great for ServiceNow. This is the right positioning for them. They are probably the right platform to do this. Obviously, everybody's trying to do that as well. But overall, from the alignment perspective, I think they have a great positioning in terms of their development stack in having that AI control tower. If anybody else claims that, then that's probably going to be out of place in my mind. The problem that I have with this story is, obviously they are talking about UI now. When I look at, any sort of agentic offering, then my take on that is going to be that you are probably not going to have any UI. Why do you need UI? Because it's probably going to be a text box. So maybe you do need some sort of UI, even if it is going to be for the admin-centric functions or for governance. So UI may still have a play, even if everything is going to be text-based interaction. So again, I don't know where UI is going to go overall in terms of its scope. But I think there's going to be some play for UI even in the future, even for the agentic application where
The way,
pretty much.
Seb, the way I read this, I think
Yeah.
it's aligned with you, right? That
Yeah.
it is
Yeah, I do too.
it's it's talking about this conversational UI. I think it is saying it's text based, it's natural language, it's typing
Mhm.
to your AI copilot or talking to it in some situations. So
Yeah, too.
that's the way I'm taking this too, is the conversational approach.
So I think it's going to be more than a text box, to be completely honest, because if you look at the any sort of LLM interfaces, the only UI they have is a text box, which is not an UI, I guess. So I think this is going to be more than that. I don't know if it is going to be just a text box and you will be commercializing that as a PR story. Hey, I've introduced an UI, and UI has a text box here.
Yeah, but I mean that is conversational AI upfront is going to be the way a lot of people interact with systems going forward, whether it's in ServiceNow or it's in Slack or it's in Teams or it's in all these others. So I mean that part of it, I was like, okay, yeah, I mean you're going to have conversational interface. Some of it's text, some of it's voice. Voice is going to be more and more important. I mean, in fact, Salesforce Agent Force rolled out the capability to build your agents using voice instead of text this time. Cool, I guess. I mean, I tried it; it works. So, but I think that's the big issue is the underneath piece. And by the way, I think whoever did the naming, AI Control Tower, that's a good name. I mean, you got to admit that's that's pretty good marketing there. I don't know how well the software works, but the marketing is good. I think that control tower piece is extremely important here too.
Yeah.
All right, let's try our next story. A quick question, guys. Every time a company comes out with new agents, is it something that we need to? Is it newsworthy, or is it standard procedure, or how do we want to? Not necessarily us, but like, is it really worth a marketing piece for these companies? Because who says it's a fit for the general public, or is it more of a niche release, or what is it? Because it seems like that's what companies are doing now, and I'm not sure how these agents really fit within every organization.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably important to say, "Hey, we have agents," but does it go beyond that? But I mean, maybe when you're talking about the platform, talking about orchestration, talking about governance, talking about ethics, talking about responsible AI, things like that, I think those are extremely newsworthy as you trying to build trust in a customer base. But as far as like, gee, we got 4 new agents, okay, cool. I mean, what did Oracle announce at AI World? 600 agents, 200 that are partner, and 400 they build, or something like that.
Right.
I mean, cool, but again, I don't need to know every one of those.
Right. So Braz, is that how you say them? Braz or Braze or
Braze.
So they released new features that deal with some of the things that we're talking about. Obviously, this helps marketing departments, and and you're pretty familiar with these people, I'm assuming, Michael, and probably Brian too. What's your insights on this for helping campaigns? And I mean, how big of efficiency gain is this?
Yeah, I think that there's big potential here if you're trying to improve your marketing program. Marketers that are savvy in the digital realm know it's all about tracking your data and tracking the customer journey across these different channels and trying to nudge them along to the next step until ultimately they're completing your goal, right? Buying the cart or downloading the asset or whatever it is you set up as your metric. But without having like seen the execution of this Braze platform, what they're implying is the next step in automation, right? So what have we had previously? We've had the insights into where are our target audience engaging with us? What is the target audience that I'm pursuing and how can I reach them? And now we're going to know how deeply and how engaged that audience is going with our marketing materials and automatically push them on to the next phase without necessarily having to take some action or even divine the insight out of my data, because the AI will do it for me and decide what is the next best thing to do to push this person along. So, it's like we used to do A/B testing, but if A/B testing is automated away by AI agents and it just pushes forward with the next step in the marketing journey, we could really see a lot of improvement in this. So it has potential.
I mean, the other thing in this too, though, that is definitely a trend that we're going to see over the next few years is this idea of commerce, right? So in this case, they're talking about WhatsApp commerce, extremely important channel in certain areas. I mean, in fact, if you look at Latin America, that's the preferred customer service channel is WhatsApp instead of all the others, right? So that's going to be important. And then adding agent commerce into this is also a trend that you're starting to see heat up, and more companies are going to be looking for cross-channel marketing capabilities that encourage this commerce in wherever the customer is. In this case, WhatsApp, but could be Slack, could be anything else. Meta, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So, Robert, I'll address your first question first, related to whether I see any value in everybody talking about AI agent. To some degree, I do. To be completely honest, even if it is going to be really Me Too marketing. The reason for that is, for example, let's say if you look at Plex, they did not announce anything for last 2 years. And then, analysts are sort of wondering, are they still in business? I don't know. If they, I mean, even if you simply talk about some marketing messaging, I'm completely okay with that. At least you have something going on there, right? As opposed to not saying anything.
It's done a lot. It takes the steam out of the message. That's all.
I get it, but I mean, at the same time, you have to do something. I mean, it's very hard to develop very compelling features every quarter to be fair with them. You are not going to have that. But
talk about wins then. Talk about how those agents were used in a win. I don't need to know that you have a new procurement agent or a new sales agent or a marketing agent. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Yeah. But I mean, it'd be useful.
I agree with you, Robert.
It'd be useful to know, Robert, if that agent saved them, 30% of their purchasing budget or whatever. That'd be cool, right? So outcomes, I think you're right, are very important.
You can definitely have better stories. Yeah, you can definitely have better stories, but talk about something. Don't go completely quiet. Is my point.
I agree, but saying I have an agent isn't enough. Is my that's what I'm telling you.
Completely agree. Completely agree that you can definitely
governance issues. Next year is going to be about how these agents work, how strategy, how governance, how data's all messed up, and how this all facilitates efficiency and growth. It's just like everybody's throwing darts, and I'm not sure it's sticking. It seems like it's sticking, but I don't think it really is.
Yeah, you are right. I mean, you can always improve your stories and what you want to communicate. So now coming back to the story, and Braze, in my experience, is fairly solid in terms of what they do. And this is the real-time interaction management. And that's where when you are going to have the interaction management more from the sports perspective, the interaction that you require for a sports is very different from a Shopify store who's selling $5, product, I guess. That's a very different experience than the sports fan sort of experience. So here we are talking about obviously rich media, and I think Michael had a really good point related to WhatsApp. That is going to be sort of the de facto channel for developing countries, and sometimes that is sort of endorsed by the business that this is the business communication channel. They are making calls using them. It's fairly powerful overall. The way WhatsApp has penetrated into these countries where phone was not as reachable, I guess, but WhatsApp is far more reachable in general.
Yeah.
And that's where I guess this rich media it's probably very powerful and AI powered platform that they are trying to AI capabilities that they are trying to utilize in that rich media management is going to be extremely powerful in my mind. So I really do like this story. There are not many players that can do what Braze is able to do. Other players are slightly legacy, I would say. They are fairly modern. That's my understanding of their platform. So yeah, and again, they are very expensive. They are not supposed to be cheap. But when you want that kind of experience, you have to pay.
You get what you pay for most of the time. So, all right. Should we do a closeout? Maybe we can.
Can I get one more thought in here? I
of
just
course.
want to say, like, reading this and like we don't, thinking about conversational commerce, right? To Michael's point, and reading about the integration with WhatsApp, like the future of our text conversations. It's sort of been an environment where there's been some sanctity so far in terms of no platform has tried to interrupt your conversation with your friends, but I feel like it's coming with the way things are going. Like, I'll be talking about the Blue Jays game in my WhatsApp group chat, and then suddenly we'll just all be getting a message right in that chat about like, hey, purchase your World Series Blue Jays kit on the MLB store now, and with a push to that. So the way that personalization is going and the way conversational commerce is becoming more normalized, I'm just a little bit worried we'll see that influence in our private chats.
Yeah. Understood. Well, we've come a long way this year. It's been, Sam, I even think like our end of the year, we can talk about some of the best stories. That'd be kind of fun. But let's close on out and talk a little bit about what are you guys' plans for this magical Halloween day tomorrow? Anything to do with AI? Are you doing anything at your house? And then are you dressing up, taking the kids around? And then prediction on the World Series, Game 6, Game 7, who's the winner? So with Brian.
Yeah, so for Halloween, it'll be busy. The Jays game will be on. I'll have to bring the TV to the front door so I can hand out the candy, and then we'll have to take my daughter out at some point too. She'll probably want some candy from other houses, I imagine. So she's Minnie Mouse. Mom's a witch. I'm a devil, I think. They just brought me a mask from the store, so I'll wear that, and should be fun. We'll get candy if the Jays win the World Series on Halloween, Toronto could explode. It could be crazy. So we'll see.
Michael, how about you?
Well, I thought I'd go as an AI agent. That seems like the topic of the day, right? So I got to figure out what that costume looks like, though. So as you know, I said not the biggest baseball fan, so I figured to help you guys out, I'd go ask Claude who was going to win, because I mean, generative AI must know, right? And you'll be happy to know that Claude says the Blue Jays are going to win.
Really?
And getting 6 or 7 games.
So AI changes its mind, I guess. Last
time
it depends on which one you ask, I guess. But yeah.
Well, so last year I did not go in accordance with my wife and daughter. They dressed up as like bees and stuff. They wanted me to be a beekeeper, and I said I'm out. So I was the Duncan team. I'm like, and they didn't like it. So this year they want to dress up as Greek gods and goddesses, and so I said I'm in. So I'm doing that, and then I'm going to take the Blue Jays in 7.
Yeah, so guys, I'm probably gonna miss the Blue Jays game because my son and their friends, they are planning to be ostriches. They have really good costume, and it's really funny, to be completely honest. Okay, obviously they want me to be there. I don't want to be there because of the Blue Jays game, so I think it's going to be a fun conversation. But I don't think I'm going to be ostrich.
You just need to get the game.
Yeah.
Make it portable.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to come across as the lost ostrich there, with them. But that's the most you get from a Blue Jays fan, I guess, when he's not able to watch. On that note, guys, I'm super excited for this weekend. I think it's going to be fun. Yeah, I mean, we meet every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So yeah, we are going to be here next week as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go Jays.
All right, good show, guys.
All right. Yeah, nice.